Last summer, I was working at a shelter for wildfire evacuees. We were setting up an outdoor meeting area, and we needed tents to protect our residents from the hot August sun. So I pulled out my credit card and I sent a shelter worker to the store. And on their way, they passed through a parking lot filled to bursting with pallets of donated goods. I strongly suspect that the tents that we needed were in there. It's just the kind of thing that people like to donate after a disaster. But we didn't have the hours that it would have taken us to find them. In my 10 years of responding to disasters, I have seen this happen again and again and again. Warehouses and shelters just like this one, overflowing with donated items, too jumbled to be of any use, or even to get to the people who need them. These donations are given with the best of intentions, but it's worth considering, what are you really doing when you put together a bag of clothing from your closet to send to survivors? The truth is, material donations very often do more harm than good. Fortunately, there is a better way. So, to learn how we can turn our good intentions into good results, I'd like to start today by examining the harm that donated goods can cause, how they can make recovery even more difficult for the very people we're trying to help. Then, to turn to a better option to manage the assistance that I know people want to give. And finally, we'll discuss what you can do next time that you hear about a disaster on the news. So, let's start by unpacking the problem of donated goods. After disasters strike, communities are often overwhelmed by material donations, many of which are not helpful or even usable. Jose Joaquin Veras, a member of the National Academy of Sciences Disaster Research Roundtable, he wrote in a 2012 Los Angeles Times article that an estimated 60% of all relief supplies that arrived at a disaster site are not helpful to the people of that community. Instead of aiding survivors, they pile up, becoming more and more debris in an already inundated community. After Hurricane Andrew, so much clothing was donated that truckloads of t-shirts were just left to rot on the side of the road. Or you get scenarios like the ones described here by Kristen Brown in a 2012 article in the News Times. In just a few weeks following the shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary, the town of Newtown, Connecticut, had filled up this 20,000-foot warehouse with teddy bears and toys. All of this for a town whose population is only 10,000 in total. Of course, there are those who would say that any donation is a good donation, and we shouldn't be dampening the enthusiasm of people who want to help. But that's assuming that there is no cost to receiving and processing donations, something that just isn't true. Sorting requires hours of volunteer and local government time, and it takes them away from providing critical assistance. Donations also take up the space that could be allocated to necessary supplies. In a 2013 NPR interview, Juanita Rilling, the head of the Center for International Disaster Information, he spoke of responding to a hurricane in Honduras, where so many items were donated they filled up the airport tarmac and forced a flight with critical medical supplies to be redirected, delaying it by more than a day. And it's important to understand, this is not just a problem for those who live in far-off places. Northern California is a high disaster risk area. Before you know it, it could be your donations wasting away in a warehouse, or your family member who isn't able to get the critical supplies that they need. But as overwhelming as this problem of excessive material donations may seem, there are viable solutions available to us. Ultimately, individuals and groups should donate cash rather than collecting and sending material goods to disaster-impacted areas. In doing so, you'll actually get a greater value for your donation. Among other things, you're not paying for very expensive postage. But also, the organizations can buy the exact quantity of items that they need, with no waste, and often with the bulk discount not available to regular consumers. They can also get those items more quickly to the families who need them. And as an added benefit noted by relief experts in a 2017 CBS News story by Scott Simon, spending that money locally stimulates the local economy and helps keep those already impacted by a disaster employed. Yet many remain uncomfortable with the idea of giving cash. In their 2019 study of disaster donors, Paid with Good Intentions, Mary Nealon and her co-authors describe the feeling of monetary donations as out of the donor's control. That donors would worry that their money might be spent on administrative costs, or that their money wouldn't help people directly, or that their money would even be wasted. It's an understandable concern, but as we've seen, those donated goods are becoming wasted 60% of the time. Plus, with a little bit of research, you can make sure your funds are going to a reputable agency. Donors can use groups like Charity Navigator or GiveWell to make sure that their funds are used effectively. But rather than just talk of the statistics and the solutions to the problem of excess donations, I'd like to take a moment to put it into context. Imagine that you're the parent of a 6-month-old baby, just evacuated from a wildfire with nothing more than the clothes on your back. When you arrive at the shelter, start to get settled, and you start to have little unpleasant odors snaking its way up to your nostrils. But when you ask the shelter manager for some diapers, they grimace and point you to a pile of donations in the corner. Finally, you find a box of diapers that are 2 sizes too small. Now, let's rewind that tape, but this time we're going to give our shelter manager the funds and the flexibility to respond to their residents' need. This time, when you check into the shelter worker asks you, "What do you need?" "Diapers? Okay, great. What size? Any allergens we should avoid?" They send someone out to the local Walmart, and 30 minutes later, you're changing a smelly diaper in the bathroom. You get back to your cot, and you share a smile with your neighbor, who likes you a lot better now that the odor has improved. Creating this kind of positive experience for disaster survivors is within your power. By providing financial donations instead of material, you can help to solve the problem of excess donations. This year, we are expected to see a record-breaking hurricane season, and with wildfires in California and New Mexico, we're already busy. So, here's how you can help. First, donate cash to a reputable organization. If you don't have funds to donate, collect the goods that you would have sent and hold a rummage sale. Send the proceeds to a relief organization. If you really don't feel comfortable sending funds, ask a local organization what goods they need. Collect those specific items and bring them to the local group so they're ready for next time. And in the meantime, spread the word to friends and family about the importance of effective donations. And you can get ready to help by researching reputable relief agencies that you can trust. After a disaster, material donations often do more harm than good. But now that we've looked at the problem of unsolicited donations and how we can solve it, I hope that you feel empowered to be part of that solution by donating cash to relief organizations, raising funds instead of mailing items, and supporting your local nonprofit organizations. Personally, I've already got my list of preferred charities ready to go for the next event. But if we're really going to make change, it's up to you and everyone you know to be part of the solution.